Welcome, everybody, to Rapscast. It's episode 9, a beautiful day in Montreal. Jacoby, it's 1 degree out. Canadians call that bikini weather.
Oh, yeah, just about. Summer's around the corner, Kyle. It's here.
Yeah. A nice day to do a Rapscast. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's been a good day. Got some shopping done today, some laundry, did some chores. I'm ready to do a Rapscast, ready to talk some basketball with you, my friend.
Dude, let's get in it.
Let's get in it. It's around the league, and here we go.
We have some good topics for around the league. So first, let's just talk about, we're getting close to the playoffs, and we're starting to see the playoff race shape up. Who's going to get those last 2 seeds in each conference? Let me hear, Jacoby.
Why don't you go first?
Okay, so right now we're looking at in the East. We're looking at Indiana and Miami. They're tied for 7th and 8th. And then Boston and Charlotte are really close by. Boston's actually tied, and Charlotte is about a game behind. Who do I think? I think Indiana is going to stay in it. I think they could be the 7th seed. Paul George is going to be coming back soon.
They looked pretty good against the Raptors the other day.
Yeah, they looked like they're playing some good basketball, and they're playing hard-nosed defense. I mean, they have a good coach, and they know how to play basketball. I'll stick with them at number 7. And really, I don't think Boston's going to get there. I like the Boston Celtics. They're a good team, but they're just, if they get in, it's more of a fluke. They're not in that phase of their rebuilding, and they're playing all right basketball, but I have more faith in a team like Charlotte, who's even a game behind, of coming back, because really they're just a game behind because of injuries, right? But really, when it all comes down to it, I think it's going to be Miami. I mean, Miami, they just have the culture to win. They know how to win. They know how to get in the playoffs. They still have Dwayne Wade. They have Goran Dragic. They have a good team. They could get there. And they're going to be a little bit of a sneaky 8th seed, too. I mean, they're not that great on paper right now. They've got some key injuries in Bosch. But they do know how to win.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they've been there so many times already. So.
And experience counts for something.
Yeah.
We know that last year, the Nets, they killed us. Just experience. What about you, Jacoby?
Well, as far as the East is concerned, yeah, exactly. But as far as the East is concerned, when you consider experience, you look at Indiana and Miami. They're battle-hardened playoff teams, and I think having Paul George come back to Indiana will definitely spark them. They looked really good against the Raptors. They're getting good stuff out of Hill, the point guard over there. I definitely don't see them falling out of the playoffs. Miami's suffering greatly from not having Chris Bosh in the lineup. Do I think Boston will get there? They're too young. I don't think they can keep it together towards the end of the season and really, play the hottest ball when they need to. I think the East right now, that what you see is what you get, which is crazy having a team like Milwaukee in there. But I think this is going to be the playoff picture. It'll be Atlanta, Miami in the first round. I don't think Boston will do what they need to do. And Charlotte, like Boston, is in a similar stage of their rebuilding. They're not a playoff team, not yet. I mean, even if they get in there, they won't do much in the first round, I don't think. Miami, Indiana with 30 wins right now, I think they're going to hold on, and they're going to hold on to 7 and 8, and that's how the playoffs are going to go in the East.
Okay, I agree. Let's talk about the West. What do
Sure.
you think?
The West is a little more interesting. The West is crazy right now because the Oklahoma City Thunder, who just lost Serge Ibaka, are 1 win away from dropping out of 8th spot into 9th, and hot on their tails are the New Orleans Pelicans, who are, in my opinion, one of the surprises of the season. But I do think Oklahoma City is going to hold on to the 8th spot. I think they are also a playoff-hardened team. They know what it takes to get there. Mind the pun there. They don't have hardened anymore, but they are hardened. I think they'll get there. They're playing great. KD's coming back soon. Russell Westbrook's been like MVP. He's almost a runaway, actually, at this point. I think they've been playing fantastically well. The Clippers will stay in there. The only seed I see dropping out is this 8th place team. They could have Phoenix, basically, in New Orleans are who's chasing them and who's right on their tails. I don't think they'll get in there. I hate to be so boring and say that in the East and the West there won't be any surprise drops towards the end of the season, but I think the playoff picture is shaping up right now. I think Oklahoma City's gonna hang on to the end there. What do you think about them?
So you think the Clippers are going to stay 7th?
They might. Oh, I forgot we were talking about 7th place as well.
So right now the Clippers are in 7th place
with 42 wins. Yeah.
Yes. San Antonio is in 6th and Dallas in 5th.
I mean, look, it's going to be tight to the last game of the season. It's going to be tight. I don't think they'll ever be more than 1 or 2 games away from each other. These are 3 teams that are all high caliber teams. They could all beat the Raptors on any given day, I think. Hard to bet against San Antonio falling. Maybe Dallas could do it, but I don't know. They're a lot deeper, I think, than the Clippers are. I think the Clippers are going to stay there in 7th, but they'll be a tough matchup for Memphis in the first round if that's what happens. I mean, the Clippers are not a good team to face in the playoffs. So, yeah, they might end 7th, but that's they've had a better season than what that indicates, I think.
Okay, so I'm going to talk West Conference. So, I also think that the Clippers are going to stay in the 7th, and I'm actually really excited for that. Memphis and LA, well, the Clippers, have a really good, not really a rivalry yet, but they've seen each other pretty often in the past 2-3 years, and they're always a really good matchup just because they both have some really
bigs.
Yeah, really talented bigs, but, they play such different systems, right? It used to be Lob City against the Grindhouse, and it's just really interesting. It's a great matchup, and I really hope we see it because it's amazing television and amazing basketball.
Yeah, also, if Golden State, Oklahoma City in the first round, that would be, like, lights out, an amazing series.
If they were healthy,
if OKC
was healthy, there'd be a chance that OKC could beat the Warriors.
Yeah.
But that's a topic for another time.
Sure.
So, for the 8th seed, as you mentioned, Ibaka's out, and that's a big deal. They're a team that have had a lot of injuries. They played through it. They've done some trade, have a lot of changes, and they're a good team. But I'm going to say this is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah, and you think big changes in the offseason for them too?
First, let me finish this.
Okay,
then we'll jump into that.
Okay.
I think this is just one too much. You lose KD, an MVP player, last year's MVP player. That's a lot. They're not the deepest team. They got deeper in the trade deadline, but really they're relying on Russell Westbrook to play out of his mind basketball every night. And he's doing a great job.
He's been doing it, yeah.
He's been doing it, so there's no complaints there. But at the very least, they had a really talented power forward in Serge Ibaka who plays out of his mind defense, shot blocker. He can now hit three-pointers. He's a money just jump shooter.
From any range, really.
From pretty much any range.
Yeah.
And to lose him is going to take a toll on this team. I mean, who else are they going to defer the basketball to? Steven Adams? Enes Kanter?
Enes Kanter? That's the answer. It's Enes Kanter.
And
of course, Dion Waiters as well.
Yeah, and I don't see that as the Western Conference team that's going to take them to the playoffs.
But they just need to hold on, Kyle.
They need to hold on, but there are other teams that are starting to find their rhythm, right? I'm going to think that New Orleans is going to be the 8th. They're starting to pick it up. Anthony Davis, MVP type player. He's not an MVP, but he has the skill level of one.
Not yet.
Yes, he has the skill level.
He's not an MVP yet.
He's not an MVP yet. He won't win it this season no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But he has the talent to be one.
Yes, sir.
He's playing unbelievable basketball. Eric Gordon is getting back into his groove. He's playing like his pre-injury days. And they're a team that's on the rise. They're a team that, these past few years have been injury-riddled, and I hope that they can start to play up to that potential. They have a good roster. Don't forget that they have Ryan Anderson, Omer Asik, Anthony Davis, Tyreek Evans, Drew Holiday. These are all great players. I think they can get into the 8th. That's my call. Nola in the 8th spot.
The only thing that scares me about that is OK City's an older team. They've been coached by the same man for a little while. They know what they've got to do. It's a mature team who knows what it takes to win. They've been to the playoffs many years in a row. It's hard for me to picture, even without the big names, that they're just going to, drop this ball come towards the end of the season here. I don't think New Orleans, while I agree with what you said, I think they're on the rise and they have a lot of great pieces. I just don't think they have them all together yet. I know they're one win out, but I think Oklahoma City deserves to be in the playoffs over them, frankly, and I think they're going to get there. I think they're going to, pile up the wins towards the end of the season here. They're going to do what they need to.
This is definitely a test of mental toughness. And yes, a team that has a lot of playoff experience is going to have an advantage. But do they have that much of an advantage? Russell Westbrook has been there a lot, but a lot of their big players that are going to touch the ball a lot right now are young guys. Dion Waiters, never seen a playoff game. Enes Kanter, never seen a playoff game.
True, good point.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of the guys they're going to be relying on aren't playoff guys. So, yes, I think they have an advantage because Russell Westbrook knows what he's doing. He's probably the toughest player in the league. Scotty Brooks, he knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. So, yes, they have an advantage.
It all depends exactly which game KD comes back and decides to play in.
But if let's say OKC is the 8th seed, even injured, I think they're a more dangerous 8th seed than New Orleans, right? But I think New Orleans is going to get into the 8th seed. But you've been pretty hot on your predictions, so We'll see.
Well, just this week, actually. That's a new development.
Yeah. So speaking of that, let's just jump into the next topic.
Sure.
We're still in around the league.
All right.
So we thought we'd have a little bit of fun this week, Jacoby. We spent some time. We made the NBA all-intimidating team. So we're defining this as just the most scary players in the league, and you could define that how you want. This guy could be
tough, nasty, all those bad things.
He could be tough, nasty, on the court, off the court, whatever you want. Just explain. So we'll go position by position.
Okay.
So who's your point guard?
My point guard is probably one of the toughest players in the history of the league, and also a very entertaining speaker and sports commentator. A guy by the name of Gary Payton, the Glove, probably the best defensive guard in the history of the league. A tough guy, one of the best, and a guy who trash talked so much. He just never shut up, and guys hated playing against him because he gave him hell on the defensive end, just hustling, breaking his butt. You know, he's very physical. Gary Payton, to me, as far as point guards go, that's one guy you never want to have to go up against, was Gary Payton. Toughest point guard, I think, in the history of the NBA.
You're also giving some reasons to include a guy named Reggie Miller in this. I didn't put Reggie in mine, but he would have been a good candidate.
Yes, absolutely.
A good honorable mention, Reggie Miller.
Okay.
But let me go with my point guard.
Sure.
Allen Iverson, biggest thug in basketball, okay? Comes out of high school. He was arrested.
He went to Georgetown University, actually. Yeah.
Oh, that's my bad.
Don't worry about it.
He was arrested before for getting in a fight and punching a girl in a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been arrested for lots of things, I think.
Yep. Has a troubled past. Tatted all up. But not only is he a thug looking, he's a thug on the basketball court.
Exactly.
That guy is going to steal the ball, score, play one-man basketball, and that may have not worked for him throughout his whole career, but
it's definitely made him one of the most followed. He has like a cult following of NBA fans who just love the way he played the game, and I don't blame them. I mean, he changed what it means to be a quick guard in the NBA.
I think he changed how we see the point guard.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
From the guy who's the set my team up guy to
first option scorer.
Right? Russell Westbrook wouldn't be the same player if Allen Iverson wasn't in the game.
A lot of these guys wouldn't. Like Damian Lillard, exactly. John Wall, pardon me, even Derrick Rose. Like this, he created a generation of score first point guard. Absolutely. And very good call for tough. I mean, I wouldn't want to mess with AI, man.
No way.
I don't want to mess with him.
So I'm going to jump into my shooting guard.
Yeah, all right.
Kobe Bryant.
All right.
One of the toughest players in the game. The guy will score a basket on you, turn around, and slit your throat. Okay? He is on the NBA all-intimidating list. I wouldn't want to pick a fight with him. What about you, Jacoby?
I agree with that. Definitely one of the most determined. He has his eye on the prize all the time. He just wants to win those basketball games. Kobe Bryant's a good call. And if Kobe Bryant is the remix, I'm going with the OG shooting guard, tough guy, probably the idol and the apple of Kobe Bryant's eye, the man by the name of Michael Jordan. You want to talk about a tough guy to play against? Not only did he have the skill, but boy did he have the will. He loved to talk shit, he loved to play defense hard, he loved to make you out of the game mentally as much as physically. Michael Jordan, obviously to me, I mean, you could ask anybody who knows basketball, but you don't want to go up against Michael Jordan on either end of the court. He had that killer instinct, just that win at all cost mentality that made him just such a tough guy for anyone to play against. Michael Jordan, you are my all-intimidating shooting guard. Kyle, back to you.
Too hell of a choice. So let's go to the small forward. You want to go with yours first?
Sure, I'll go with mine first. It took me a while to find this. I thought the small forward was kind of the hardest position, but eventually I found the runaway and, to me, kind of the obvious pick. You can call him whatever you want. I'll go with his former name, Ron Artest.
That's a good one.
Newly known as Meta World Peace, but you want to talk about a guy who's going to bully you on the basketball court? One of the few guys who, when he came into the league, could pop in 20 points and stop his star, like the guy he was guarding, from popping in 20. Ron Artest, just, toughness embodied, man.
Really physical player.
First of all, he's a fucking weirdo freak who you never know when he's going to pop off and go crazy. So that adds to the intimidation factor for sure. But just totally crazy and totally just defense first. And he, like MJ and Kobe and even Gary Payton, he just had the look in his eye like he was going to kill you if it meant winning the game for his squad. You know what I mean? Like, he would do anything. He'd push you, shove you, punch you, talk shit, do whatever he had to do. Elbows. He was rough, dirty, and had winning in mind, and that's why he played that way. And boy, I would not want to run into him in a dark alley on a Friday night after he's had a lot of coke.
So let me ask you this. Does it make him more or less, or does it not change how intimidating he is now that he changed his name to Meta World Peace?
Well, he's still the same guy on the court, or at least he was. He was
a guy
still
walks up to you named Meta World Peace.
Yeah,
Are
but
you less or more scared of him?
I think he was aware of the fact of how intimidating he was, and in an effort to not scare so many children, he changed his name to Meta World Peace.
That's like the Boogeyman changing his name to the Tooth Fairy.
Right, but I feel like Ron Artest there's kind of two Ron Artests. There's the one in interviews and off the court when basketball isn't, what's going on at the time, and he can be a very funny fellow. But I think as soon as the whistle blows and he's out there, to win, he'll rip your frickin' head off if it means a W for him. So definitely one of the toughest players in the history of the league, in my opinion.
Definitely a good choice. He is one of the players in Malice at the Palace, that big fight at Indiana. So,
Malice at the Palace.
Yeah.
That's an interesting name.
Yeah, that's a good choice. This is a Raptors podcast, so I'm going with a Raptor. I got to include one of our boys on this list, but I think he fits in, okay?
I know what you're going to say.
I'm going with James Johnson. And James Johnson, he's got the body of an athletic freak, okay?
Yeah.
Start with that. Then, he's got that big neck tattoo, okay? This guy shows up at a bar, gives you the stink eye.
Everyone knows he's there.
You buy him a drink. You buy him a drink, you say you're sorry, okay? But then here's the sneaky thing, and not everybody knows this. He's a black belt in karate. So he'll kick your ass.
He will kick your ass. Imagine a 6 foot, he already has the size and strength, and now he's like a master martial artist.
Yeah, you can't even get close to him. His limbs are so long.
He's kind of like a regular Batman.
Regular Batman. And I'm happy he plays for our team.
Oh boy, am I ever. I think next year he'll be even better than he is this year, too. So
I hope so.
Yeah, I think
right now he's one of the steals of the NBA.
Yes.
Our steal of the NBA.
And time in the Raptor system will do him well, I think.
Yeah, he suits the style, and he is an intimidating guy.
Motherfucker.
Joins our NBA list.
Good pick, definitely.
Yeah, so let's talk about power forwards.
Okay, you first.
I'm going with Dennis Rodman. Really easy choice.
Yeah.
Okay, just look at the guy. Piercings everywhere, tattoos everywhere.
Multicolored hair.
And not only that, his basketball, his way of approaching the game was really expressed by how he looked. He played such a tough game. He was really athletic, but really mentally tough, really hard-nosed defense, grabbing really difficult rebounds. The guy was intimidating both on and off the court. And he wasn't the biggest guy. I mean, in height, he was really jacked.
Even in
athletic.
weight, he was a little skinny.
Yeah, but he played tougher and more intimidating than guys who were way above him, and he looked the part too. So he definitely gets a spot on my list. What about you?
First of all, I need to respect you for that call. I mean, he kind of made his career in the NBA off being tough. He couldn't shoot the ball. He couldn't finish the plays off. He didn't average very many points throughout his career, but he just made a living off being a shitty guy to play against because he'd make you hurt yourself.
Not only that, he was on the bad boys too. Okay?
Yeah.
If we're making an all-intimidating list, we have to include a Detroit bad boy. There he is.
All right.
Yours?
Okay, I'm going to jump into my power forward here. People who have been listening to us from the start will know that this man is my favorite basketball player to ever grace the NBA Heartwood. It is Kevin Garnett. One of the toughest guys. I mean, we're saying this about every guy, but he really was just tough and the kind of man. They all have to have an interesting type of mindset. These men will die for basketball. They will kill you, and they themselves will get hurt for the good of the team and to put a W up on the board for their squad. And KG, I think, when he came into the league, just had such a chip on his shoulder. He just had so much to prove. He was, brash. He would do his goaltend after whistles. He wasn't afraid of anybody. I mean, that kind of like social intimidation and physical, that he just dominated both avenues. And really, guys hated playing against him, especially like when he came into his MVP form and he was blocking shots and he'd tell you about it. He'd grab rebounds. He'd tell you about it. He'd swing his elbows around. I mean, he was a tough guy to deal with down in the paint with his lanky frame, but he played like he was Shaq's size. I just loved his character and the way he went after it every single rebound, every single game. He just looked like he was insane, and all he wanted in his whole life was to be the best basketball player he could be. KG, what a tough bastard. Even to this day in the NBA, that's what his role is, just to be a tough guy on a team. KG, I love you. You're an inspiration.
Mad respect for the trash talkers.
Yes,
that's
I love
what I'm gathering.
Yes, absolutely.
You really like that part of the game, right?
Well, look, you're right. My top 4 here are all like renowned trash talkers.
Yep.
So, yep, I do love that part of the game. Anyone who's ever played out on the street, outside of a league, anyone who's ever played on a court outdoors, especially here in Montreal, I get a lot of it. But there's this one court near my house, and there's a lot of shit talkers, and It's an important part of the game. If you can get under someone's skin, get in their head, they won't be hitting so many jump shots. They'll think twice about laying the ball up on you in the paint. I do think it's an important part of the game. And KG, Gary Payton, MJ,
Isaiah Thomas, Reggie Miller.
A lot of these guys are just
all
masters at getting you off your focus, and I think that's a very important part of basketball.
For sure. One of the more entertaining parts, too, on TV.
Yes.
When you get the few hints of it.
Exactly.
Let's jump into center.
Sure.
I'm going with Chris the Birdman Anderson.
Oh, man.
Did I take yours?
You did.
Okay, well, he just looks like a coke dealer.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
He was suspended in the league for quite a bit for coke. And he looks like a coke dealer. And he looks like he'll kick my ass. My pretty white ass. Yours.
It's also Birdman Anderson, man. It's also the Birdman. What am I going to say about him besides, he definitely looks like a coke dealer. He looks like he's like from he'd be like the big gangster's bodyguard in like a Tarantino film.
Or a motorcycle club.
Yeah, exactly. He just looks like such a character that you couldn't even like dream together. He looks like definitely out of a movie, covered in tattoos. The mohawk doesn't help either. And his on-court demeanor is very, very mean. Definitely looks like a mean guy.
Agreed. I guess we both agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just jump into quick predicts.
Okay.
So let's just reflect on last week.
Sure.
You're doing pretty hot right now.
Yeah.
3 for 3.
Yeah.
You called a win against Miami, a loss against Portland, and
a win against Indiana.
Yep. Good job.
Yeah, and if we beat Minnesota, this will be my first my first perfect week, I think, in the history of this show. So.
Yeah, I can't say the same. I'm 1 for 3. I thought we'd lose against Miami. I thought we'd lose against Indiana. Well, I look like a fool right now.
Yeah, well, you have a chance to redeem yourself because coming up is our new quick predicts for the coming week in the Raptors schedule.
Okay, so I'm just going to agree with you.
Okay, well, you go first then, so I can avoid that.
Okay, I'm just messing with you. Okay, I'll start first. So let's just talk about the schedule, run through it quick. So first, we're going to be playing Chicago at Chicago. Then we're going to be playing against the Knicks.
In Toronto.
Yes. Then we're going to Detroit to play the Pistons. And then we're playing Chicago at home, and it's the tail end of a back-to-back.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just talk about Chicago first. Chicago's not having a good month. They've won 4 out of their 9 games in March.
They're banged up.
They have a lot of injuries. They're missing D. Rose, as we all know. We've talked about it. Jimmy Butler's out, and Taj Gibson's out. Both the latter two could come back anytime. So I'm going to assume they're not playing.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming they're not playing, I think we're going to win. They're not playing really hot right now. They're beat up. They're tired. And really part of this is if we throw Chuck Hayes in the game, which we didn't our second time we did. Chuck Hayes is a really good matchup on Pau Gasol.
Mm-hmm.
And if we use that, I think we can have a great game against them. I know Chicago is one of the harder teams to the Raptors. We don't generally match up well against them, but right now they're beaten, they're tired. We could match up well with them. It's really on Casey, and I really like how Patrick Patterson fits into this game. He's going to pull out some of their big interior defenders to the perimeter, and P-Pat's been playing some great basketball these days. Shooting well, playing great defense. I like what he's doing. I think we could get the win. Then we go to New York. I really don't need to spend time on them. They're terrible. This is an easy win. I know we lost the last one. We didn't have Kyle Lowry. That's not even a big enough excuse. They're that bad, but we're going to win. Okay, that's it. We're going to win. That's it. That's it.
We better, dude.
Yeah. I guess I'm being pretty optimistic this week. It seems like I fluctuate.
Are you going to go I think you're going 4-0.
No, I'm going to end up with 3 out of the 4 wins.
Okay.
Detroit's on a 10-game losing streak. Reggie Jackson, they got him in the trade deadline, hasn't been playing well at all for them. Andre Drummond left last game with a concussion, and it's in about a little over a week from now. We're recording on Tuesday. He might be back, it might not. More likely he won't be in the game. I think we're gonna win the game. We tend to play well against Detroit. We match up well. We could pull their big guys out, just as with the Bulls.
Unless their point guard scores 35 points.
Unless their point guards, but they don't have DJ Augustine anymore. We don't need to worry.
Yeah.
Reggie Jackson's not playing well. This is a team we could match up well against.
Finally.
Yeah. We could take advantage of them. They're playing terrible basketball right now. When a team's on a 10-game losing streak and you look at them, no, they're going down. We're going to win. And then we're going back to the Bulls. Actually, the Bulls are coming to us. I'm going to say we drop this one. We're not mentally tough enough to just really take advantage of, just take advantage of this easy part of the schedule, or relatively easy.
Well, compared to what we just got off, it's very
That's exactly
easy.
it. But it's a back-to-back, and I think a lot of our players are a bit tough, and, they're still trying to build up that confidence. So that's where I think we're going to drop the ball. Again, I think we'll match up well, but I think it's just going to be an issue of effort. What about you, Jacoby?
I definitely agree with you on the wins and losses. I'll break them down for you, though. In Chicago, I think Chicago not having Jimmy Butler is a huge deal for the Raptors.
Lets DeMar DeRozan get hot.
Exactly. Their best defender on the perimeter is gone, and also just their scoring threats. Like, you're right. If you put Chuck Hayes on Pau Gasol, like, I think the Raptors can really hold the fort and hold them under 90 points at least. Like, I definitely see the Raptors winning that one with the absence of their guards. Not having Taj Gibson is big for them. The Raptors should do fine. Yeah, your point about P-Pat was great. You take Gasol and Noah out of the paint. You let DeMar and Kyle get to the foul line, do what they do best. Right now, when they don't have Jimmy Butler, the Chicago Bulls are actually a fantastic matchup for the Raptors. Yeah. So I see a win in Chicago.
I really hope that we see a front court lineup of Chuck Hayes and Patrick Patterson at some point on Noah and Gasol.
Talk about small ball, Kyle.
That's small ball. But
yeah.
Chuck E. Cheese, he's a big boy, okay? Don't let his height.
He's a thick boy.
He's a thick boy, okay? He
yes.
can handle his own. Stick him on Pau. Stick P-Pat with Joakim Noah. Good to go. That's a risky move. I agree, but I hope we see it.
It's risky. Your rim protection isn't fantastic there, but again, with the absence of Butler, who you really need to be afraid of. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Anyway, so I see a win in Chicago. In Chicago. Then at the Air Canada Center, we have New York. I wrote here in brackets, sucks poo, because they really do. I know they did beat the Raptors just recently, but I think it was a different squad back then than it is now. I think even though it's only been a couple of wins, I think the Raptors have woken up a little bit. So I do see a win against New York. I mean, on paper and really any way you look at it, they really should dominate New York. Detroit, the 10-game losing streak. Do I think it continues? Yes. I do not think they'll beat the Raptors, especially now at the absence of a point guard who can really hurt us. It seems like every time we play against Detroit, it's either Jennings or Augustine or somebody has a career game, like putting up points on Kyle Lowry.
Good point.
Finally, that'll be over with. So I think if the Raptors can handle their big men, which I think they will be able to, I think the Raptors do have a better team on paper than Detroit. That should be a win for them.
Well, Drummond might not be back, so that's one good thing. And
which is a big factor.
That's
frankly.
A big factor, and I think that Amir Johnson is a good matchup for Greg Monroe. So is Patrick Patterson, defensively, I mean.
Yeah.
They're both good matchups against him, especially when he's alone.
Yeah.
So we're calling a win.
Yes, definitely a win in Detroit. And I like what you said about Chicago. I think Chicago has the coaching, has the mentality that after taking a loss to the Raptors, they'll be upset about it. They'll get their shit together, and they'll sort of gear up for a real playoff run. They're just a dangerous team also because of the playoff hardened and the experience factor, which I think counts for more than most people think it does. I do think Chicago will beat the Raptors on their second meeting this week.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
We agree.
Yeah, we do.
That's good to hear. Well, hopefully, I'm happy we agree because right now you're doing well and I'm not. So that's all good news. I think we're ready to jump to a break, Jacoby.
Are we?
Yep.
Okay, then yes, we are. We'll see you on the other side, Rapscast followers. Stay put.
Lean forward slightly. Look straight at the speaker and listen with a sparkle in your eye, as though you might be thinking, gee, this is the most wonderful thing I ever heard in all my life.
Welcome back, Rapscast listeners. We hope you enjoyed that break. Kyle and I enjoyed it very much. We had a lot of cocaine in the studio.
Did we now? That's what we did.
I'm just kidding around.
Okay.
Anyway, we're going to jump right into the starting five. This is 5 topics to do with the Raptors this week that caught our eye. And the first and probably the most important one, and something that a lot of Raptors fans are happy to see is happening. Kyle Lowry, at least for a couple games, seems to be back in his early season form when he was being considered possible MVP, for sure an all-star. Kyle Lowry is back, or so it looks to be that way. How do you think this is going to affect the Raptors, Kyle, and why do you think it's happening?
Well, the Raptors really need Kyle Lowry to play well. Their team's success is completely dependent on how he plays. I'm happy to see he's back in it, and he looks good. Just straight simply, he looks like he's playing great. The only thing we've seen that he's not doing so well is he's still not defending up to his standard. It looks like he's just a bit tired, a bit slow on his feet. We've talked about a bit of his incapabilities of guarding quicker point guards, but even slower guys are really taking advantage of him, like George Hill. I mean, he can't be perfect.
I just don't think he's that good of a defender like what we thought he was at the beginning of the season. Frankly,
I think he's a very good defender, but he's not a great defender.
He's short.
He's short, but he's tough.
He is very tough.
He's thick. He's like Chuck Hayes thick.
True.
But it's muscle.
Yes. Whereas in Chuck Hayes' case, it's not all muscle, man.
It might be muscle. I'm not saying anything bad about you, Chuck.
You
You're a
love
good man.
me, man. Yeah, jeez.
Yeah. But I'm happy to see him and DeMar look like they're really in a rhythm right now. The team's doing well. I like what I'm seeing. And it's good to be a Raptors fan once again.
Yeah. I think it's all a matter of confidence, personally. I think he was just kind of down on himself.
Yeah.
And he was trying to overthink, the fact that he's an all-star and what does that mean for his play? What do people expect of him? Things of that nature. I just think he's back to playing the game as simply as he used to. You know what I mean? Just making quick decisions, being efficient with the ball. It looks great. Might be because of his new fashion choices. We don't know. We can only speculate. But I definitely think he's definitely. He just looks more involved than he did before. He looks like he's not overthinking it too much. He's making good, simple plays, not trying to lead the team more than he needs to. He's back to the old Kyle Lowry, it seems, which is just so important to the Raptors and their playoff hopes, if they have any, like to win a series, perhaps.
That's a good point you made, that, and I agree with it, that it may have been a product of where he gauged his expectations. I mean, he gets into the All-Star game, and now he starts to put a weight on himself. Hey, I'm an All-Star. I have to live up to that. I have to carry my team every night and do this. And, I mean, now it doesn't look... I want to say, like, he's playing basketball, and it looks like he's playing basketball to have fun, but that's not the case. It looks like he's having fun playing basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a difference in the sense that he's having fun, but he's still playing a winning type of basketball.
What we need from Kyle.
He's not just, shooting YOLO shots.
He's not Allen Iverson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it seems like he's just said, okay, I got to do what I can. Let's put these expectations aside. I can only get to the second round of the playoffs by getting to the playoffs. I can only say that I'm a secure all-star next year by just playing one game at a time. And that's what you need to do as a professional basketball player. Just keep playing one game at a time, one possession at a time. And in the long run, when you look back, that's going to pay off. Let's jump into thing number 2.
Okay. Still on the topic of Kyle Lowry, we definitely saw him sport some new threads to the last game he played, and boy, did it ever work out for him in terms of the numbers he put up. He sported LeBron James style. He had a red headband with the NBA logo on the front around his shaved head, looking nice and fresh, matching the jersey. What did you think of that, Kyle?
I loved the headband.
Yeah.
It was sick. It was really like OG, like 2005-ish basketball. I loved it. It was so cool.
It was very
The
OG.
only question I have about it is, does it mean that his hairline is starting to recede? That's the only question.
You think insecurity? You think the headband idea was born out of insecurity?
I think that's how LeBron conceived it.
I suppose.
Going bald, put a headband on. Nobody will ever know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like certain dudes have heads that are just like round that way, and like a headband works out. Like I couldn't wear a head.
Yeah,
well, I could.
wear a headband.
I'd look like such a weirdo though. I'd look like
a Mann Shumpert.
Yeah.
My hair would just stand up.
Except white.
Yeah, except white. And with no basketball skills.
Totally.
But I love the headband. He looked dope. It looked like NBA 2K-ish. Like I don't know. I don't know the way to describe it. But
he rocks the headband.
It brought me back to my childhood a little. Yeah, that's the best way I could put it.
I want to see if he'll still wear the red one when the Raptors aren't in the red jersey.
Okay, I think he will. It'll look cooler.
You think red with the black will look good?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think it'll look great.
I'm not sure about that, but we won't know till he tries it out. So
let me ask you one more question about this headband, okay?
Yes, sir.
Was Kyle Lowry's epic performance in the game he wore the headband a result of the headband?
Like, you have to think it probably, like...
Put on the headband.
Like, he thought about it.
He's like, damn, this is tight.
I don't know if he thought, like, damn, this is tight, or before the game he was like, yo, I gotta change something up. Like, oh shit, a headband, I'm gonna put this on. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't know if, one was a product of the other and what order it went in.
Okay.
But I think I definitely have to tie in, like, a triple-double with the first time he wears a headband this year. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Like, he definitely something was going on in his head before that game that he probably incited the desire for a headband and also, the mentality needed to put up a triple-double.
Watch, all of this is just because he just had an abnormally sweaty forehead that day.
It's like we never see it again this year.
We're talking about this for like 2 minutes, and it could just be like, he's like, guys, like, I just had a sweaty forehead. That's all. And maybe that was the problem. He couldn't shoot baskets because he had a sweaty forehead.
And maybe it's permanently fixed with this headband.
So that's the last question. is he going to wear this headband next game? Today it's Tuesday. What about the next game? Is he wearing a headband?
Like, if he's at all superstitious, he has to. Like, look, think about it. The one game he put it on, statistically one of his best games of the year.
Yeah.
So why not keep it on? If I'm Kyle, I'm definitely keeping it on.
I hope he keeps it on.
Me too.
It's cool.
Me too. Style points for Kyle Lowry. Woo woo.
Yeah. So let's jump into, we're doing another all team, but this one's for the Raptors.
Yes.
For thing 3. So we're doing the all frustrating list of the Raptors of all time.
Which is easy because the history of the Raptors is basically very frustrating start to finish.
Yeah, we're not the Boston Celtics. Okay?
Exactly.
We have a beautiful history of disappointment and failure.
Yes.
And we love every second of it. Except
sub 500 seasons.
Yes. So we're going to talk about a team, and it doesn't matter if the player is good, bad. We're looking for the type of players that really just annoyed you, did something. We want the players that you're shouting at your TV. Why are you doing that? That's the type of players we want. So why don't you start it off with a point guard?
We'll go position by position?
Yep.
Sounds good. Okay, so I'm going to start it off with a point guard. Anybody who's into the more stylish part of basketball is probably very well versed with this man. He was part of the N1 mixtape crew before coming to the NBA. It's Rafer Alston. Skipped my Lou. Definitely not what I expected him to be as a point guard in the NBA. I think he disappointed himself. But part of this is his own performance, and another part of it is just how crappy the team was back then. Being a basketball fan in Canada and all we had was the Raptors, like watching a team just suck year after year after year with no signs of getting better was really, really frustrating. And being the ball handler on this team, so you have a lot of attention on you, Rafer Alston just disappointed the crap out of me. I just didn't think he was a great team first point guard, and I had high hopes because I've seen him do. I've seen him cross up people who have never played professional sports before on a YouTube video, which I guess part of that is on me. But Rafer Alston definitely disappointed me as far as the point guards go. Did not bring any glory, any vitriol to Toronto. So Rafer Alston, you're my all-time disappointing Raptors point guard. Kyle, how about you?
Okay, I'm about to say a little bit of Raptors blasphemy because a lot of people like him, a lot of people hate him. But I'm going with Jose Calderon. And a lot of the time I watch basketball with a little bit of like a GM's eye. I see the player and I look at them, not only how they're playing, but how their contract is structured, how they fit in the team, a lot of stuff like that. And I'm sure everybody else does too. And, well, on court, he just pissed me off. He was terrible. Matador defense. It's like he had bricks tied to his feet.
Matador defense.
Yeah, move out of the way so the guy could score on you. It's
funny because he's Spanish too.
It's true. It's true. I didn't put that together. But he was just so bad defensively. What's even funnier is our backup point guard right now, Grievous Vasquez, is a little bit like him, especially defensively. But that's another point. He was just so bad defensively, and he was this pass-first point guard, and he was all right at setting other people up. He was money from 3 points. But, he had this $10 million contract a year, would do pretty much nothing that great on the offensive side, and absolutely zero on the defensive side. And I just see him as this dead weight contract counting down every goddamn game. I'd just be like, okay, one more game until he might be gone.
Absolute blasphemy. Such blasphemy.
One more game. I know he's a good person, and he's a great Raptor in the sense he's done for a lot for the city. And I like him. He's a good interview, great guy. But I just watch him and be like, goddamn, please, someone just say we want to trade for him. It took so long to trade him. Nobody wanted his contract.
He led the league in assist to turnover ratio 3 years in a row. He was getting 9 point some odd assists as the point guard of the Raptors. He was the one bright spot on a crappy team was Jose Calderon.
Yeah, a bright spot, more like a lukewarm spot.
You have some good points, Kyle. The man cannot. Matador defense we should coin that term. That's just hilarious. But
yeah. And
man,
we were just looking at it, and he was just the thing inhibiting us from getting great. And more importantly, I just compared him to Grievous Vasquez, but the difference is Kyle Lowry came on this team, and Jose Calderon kind of said, I want to be a starting point guard, and they couldn't do that. Grievous Vasquez is a starting point guard. He's that caliber, but Grievous Vasquez says, I'll do what's best for the team. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. So, if you're one of those players that has huge flaws in your game and you're not going to lead a team to being great, which Jose Calderon will never do in his life.
He just wanted to play for a crappy NBA team
so badly. Yeah, he just wanted to start for a crappy team. He wasn't doing what's best for the team. Mm-hmm. So he bugged me so much. I know he's a good player. Like, there are parts I like about him.
He's a great passer of the basketball
Yeah.
and very responsible offensively. He can run an offense.
Yeah, but yeah. So let's jump to shooting guard.
Sure, man. You go first on this one.
I'm going with Alan Anderson, low-key most annoying player on the Raptors for like that 1 year.
Yeah.
He was one of Dwayne Casey's boys, one of those guys whose skill level doesn't quite match up with how many times per game he touches the ball. And that happens a lot in Dwayne Casey basketball, but he was just this guy. We had DeMar DeRozan. He was playing pretty well at the time, and just for some reason, Alan Anderson was pretty much taking
most of the
shots in the game, and definitely not, if not most of the shots in the fourth quarter. And he'd just take these like ridiculously absurd shots, and they'd never go in. And it was kind of in the sense like Lou Williams, you'd say, just either trick or treat. He'll either win the game for you or not. But really, most often, he won't win the game for you. Mm-hmm. And it was just terrible to watch. I almost like punched through my TV watching him that year. I was so happy he left to the Nets.
Not a bad call. He could defend, though.
He could defend, and he was a good player. I still like Alan Anderson. It's just he went out of his role.
I understand.
And part of that is Casey.
Yes.
Who's yours?
Mine is a current Raptor, actually. When we signed him, he was very athletic. I liked what he was doing with New York. It's Landry Fields. Landry Fields is my most disappointing shooting guard. He just can't shoot the ball anymore, and frankly, I see a basketball player with absolutely no confidence. He just like when he scores a bucket, he's like, "Whoa, I did that. That was me. It came off my hands and it actually went in the bucket." You know what I mean?
I did it.
Exactly. Like he just seems very like his confidence is totally shattered. There's a lot of guys in the NBA who can't shoot and still have a role carved out for them, and Landry Fields just seems incapable of bringing his game to that level where he can do something else good. He just kind of sulks on the bench. I don't like what he's been for the Raptors, and also his contract is ridiculous. He's making something like $7 million a year.
Yep.
So that's totally nuts. Very disappointing in my eyes. Landry Fields.
Okay, small forward. I'll start. I'm going with John Salmons, and I can't hate on him that much in the sense that his best thing he did for us, and it was great, is he turned into Lou Williams. So that's good. That really changed my perception of him. Mm-hmm. But that's not saying much.
But he didn't do it. Yeah,
he didn't do it.
Exactly.
That was Masai. But also, same type of story as Alan Anderson. He was, last year's Alan Anderson, the guy that, for some odd reason, because he's not that skilled, he's just, what he is? Dwayne Casey likes the veterans.
Yeah.
And he was a veteran with not that much skill, so he'd get like 25 minutes a night, which were undeserved, and he'd only bring it every second game, every third game. Every second or third game, he'd have a nice game, but I just saw way too much of John Salmons last year. And like that stupid ass goatee that looks like someone's pubic hair. I don't need to see that. It was too much, and I'm so happy he's not part of this team.
I think Dwayne Casey favors efficiency over skill. Just a general rule of thumb about Casey.
Yeah.
He likes decision makers better than shot makers.
Yeah. And a lot of that time, that bites the fans in the butt.
Exactly.
What about you?
I put the Turkish tank himself, Hedo Turkoglu.
Great call.
You got to remember, only recently have the Raptors been a good, even close to good NBA team. I've been a fan for a long time, and they sucked forever. And I remember having a small glimmer of hope. Things were just coming together for the Raptors. This is in Jay Triano's final days, and they picked up this man, Hedo Turkoglu, who was a bona fide, crafty, playoff hardened scorer. But when he finally got to the Raptors, it just did not work out that way. He dominated the ball quite a bit and could not find the kind of scoring success he found other places. Really disappointed me. He's got all the tools. He's big. He can move it. Fantastic ball handling and just crafty scoring ability with both hands. But never came to fruition in Toronto, and I was very, very disappointed when that happened. Hedo Turkoglu was my 3.
Okay, and what about your 4?
My 4. Oh boy. Okay. One of the most dominant big men, in his prime that the NBA had ever seen. Just one of the biggest, strongest guys. And when he finally got to Toronto, he couldn't stay uninjured for more than 3 games in a row. It's Jermaine O'Neal.
Oh, that's a good one.
Definitely, in my opinion, maybe arguably the most disappointing Raptor of all time. He was really, he was past the prime of his career, but still had things to offer. He was very strong and really a handful on the low block for anybody in the whole NBA. The guy was just jacked. And when he came to Toronto, he just couldn't stay healthy for very long at all. And when he did, it was sporadic. I think his confidence was shook. He just didn't like being in Canada, maybe. I don't know what it was. But Jermaine O'Neal could not go back to the greatness we had seen from him. I mean, you got to remember, he was one of the most dominant players in the NBA. He really, really could score. And he was he was sort of this is also blasphemy to some extent, but he was kind of like the new Shaq. But Jermaine O'Neal, to me, so disappointing as a Raptor. I just, my heart breaks for him.
That's a really good call. I wish I chose him. I completely overlooked him. I should have put him at the 4, slide my next guy down to the 3, because my all-time worst basketball team is a modern team. We are playing small ball, okay? So my guy, Landry Fields, you already spoke about him, completely agree. Terrible contract. We brought him in to really be that floor spacing guy, hit the corner threes, play smart, intelligent basketball.
And run up and down the floor. He's very athletic.
Make shots. Make far shots. That's what we needed. We paid him literally to just be an intelligent three-point shooter. And, he's still a smart player, but, he can't do anything offensively.
He's so shook.
He can't shoot.
He's so soft mentally.
Yeah. Terrible contract. We couldn't move him. He might be an NBA player next year. I don't know. It's possible. I don't know.
He's playing himself out of the league pretty quick, man.
Yeah. We spoke about him. Let's just skip. So, number 5, we're both going to probably agree on this one.
Who wouldn't?
How can you make an NBA, a Raptors most disappointing list and not include Andrea Bargnani?
Oh, man.
At the 5 spot. By far.
Il Mago.
By far the most disappointing player I've ever seen. Picked number 1 in a good draft class. Could have had LaMarcus Aldridge. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be nice?
Oh, my God. Imagine that right now.
That'd be nice. Good pick. Oh. But no, we chose Primo Pasta. We chose a guy who does not like to play basketball.
He only likes to shoot basketballs.
Yes, does not look like he enjoys playing the sport, like he works hard at the sport. And, I can't even believe that teams used to game plan for him. He'd either be injured or just make bonehead plays. He has one of the lowest basketball IQs I've ever seen in my life. And he's just so frustrating. Defensively, he can't do anything. He's a 7-footer who can't grab rebounds. I think his highest when he averages around 5 rebounds a year, that's a good year.
That's a career rebounding year.
Yeah, right now he's averaging 5.2 or 5.3. That is a solid rebounding year for him.
He's starting to learn how to do that a little bit.
Yeah, he's a big man who played like a small man, but with no toughness. And he was supposed to be the next Dirk Nowitzki. Then we settled for the poor man's Dirk Nowitzki, and now we're settling for the poor man's Ryan Anderson. Okay, so Bargnani, he has to be on this list by default. We made this whole category just to mention Bargnani again.
Yes, as far as first overall picks go in the NBA, he's up there with one of the worst. It's him or Kwame Brown. You know what I mean? Just guys who just
complete busts.
How do you fuck that up that badly? I don't get that. You have all year to scout, to figure out exactly who you want to take. LaMarcus Aldridge would have been a franchise-defining pick, you know what I mean? If we could have locked him down long-term. Imagine the team we have right now and sub in LaMarcus Aldridge for, say, Amir Johnson.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Right, exactly. But instead, we got this 7-foot Italian dude who just is the softest. He shies away from physicality on every play. I just hate Andrea Bargnani.
Me too.
I hate him.
So happy he's gone.
Me too.
Take your pasta to New York City.
Exactly. Enjoy your Primo, bitch.
Exactly. So let's jump to thing number 4. Dwayne Casey. We're kind of out of the woods on that terrible 9 losses in 10 games, but is he on the hot seat right now? Remember, he's not Masai's guy. When Masai came in, he was a Colangelo hire. So if he fires Dwayne Casey, it's not on him. He never hired him in the first place. He just gave him a grace period. Also, Dwayne Casey's new contract is only guaranteed until the end of next season. Mm-hmm. The 3rd year is a team option, so cutting him at the end of the season, not a very bad move financially. So is he on the hot seat right now?
I think he is. I think his message is getting a little bit stale in the locker room. I think the players have kind of had enough. And frankly, I just don't see the kind of togetherness and competitiveness that other coaches get out of their teams. You look at some of the younger teams in the East, the Milwaukees, and we even talked in the West about the New Orleans. These guys play like they have stuff to prove. Every game they want to show that they're better than what people think they are. And I just don't find the Raptors mentally. I think the problem is also with their stars, as with Kyle and DeMar, but Casey, to me, definitely is on the hot seat. I think his message is getting a little stale. I think he's having trouble getting through to his squad. I don't think he should be on the hot seat, but frankly, I think Masai is definitely taking calls and considering it.
I would agree. I think he's on the hot seat, and I completely agree. I didn't even think of it, but you're right. The Raptors have stopped playing with that chip on their shoulder mentality. Us against the world, we the North.
They're becoming slightly complacent.
Slightly complacent. I agree. And if that's going to happen, then he needs to go, because that is our greatest asset. We are a team that needs to be the hardest working team. We have to play us against the world basketball. We have to play proven basketball.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we win.
And
we
frankly,
tough it out.
Also, I think firing him or just whatever, getting rid of him, not extending his option would be a message to the squad. You know, the boys would pick it up at that point. They'd say like, "Oh shit," you know, like, you know, they expect better from us, and all, to the point where the coach isn't satisfying them. Like, we gotta get this thing back on track. You know what I mean? I think it sends a really shocking message throughout the locker room, which can be beneficial.
I think Dwayne Casey's a good coach. There are some things that bother me. First of all, that he really relies on Kyle Lowry to play out of his mind basketball every night.
Yeah.
We cannot win games if Kyle Lowry is out or just playing, you know,
if
an
we're not
average game.
shooting the ball really well, we're not going to win.
Yeah, we're relying on a lot of streaky factors, especially probably number one is Kyle Lowry has to be playing elite basketball every game.
Lou Williams also. He rides Lou Williams hard.
He rides
man.
Lou Williams. He rides players a little too much. Yeah. And I think Dwayne Casey is a good coach, and I hope we don't fire him at the end of the year. I hope he gets another year. But at the same time, I wouldn't be so sad because I really like Dwayne Casey. I really want him to stay. The only thing and I could hope for is, remember Mark Jackson? We all thought he was a great coach. He is a good coach.
He is a fantastic coach.
He is a good coach.
Yeah.
And, you know, everyone was shocked when he was fired. But Steve Kerr comes in, and I mean, we all knew the Warriors would be good this season because look at their roster. On paper, they are stacked. They've played together. So pretty much anyone could have coached them well. But you can hope for a Steve Kerr situation. A new coach comes into a talented team and might get a little more out of them.
I think that's a good example of the whole, like, I think when they fired Mark Jackson, I think Steph and the boys over there were looking at each other like, well, shit, you know, there's some, you know, we got to be better.
Exactly. They're expecting more from us.
And boy, did it ever work out for them. I know Steve Kerr obviously coached them to that type of dominance, but like, I mean, the players have to play. So I think it's a big message to send to the team when you fire the coach.
But that being said, I hope Casey stays another year. He's just too cool a guy.
I don't want him to go, but I understand why he'd be on the hot seat.
Yes, exactly. I wouldn't really cry that much about it. So, last thing on our starting five, potential playoff matchups. Right now, we're third in the East. We'd be going against the Milwaukee Bucks. Mm-hmm. Again, Jason Kidd is a coach. Round 2. That's an interesting thing on its own. But
I didn't even realize that. That's an interesting storyline totally, yes. Yep.
So, Milwaukee, what do you think about that matchup?
They're scary. They're very scary. They're young. They're hyper athletic, and the Greek Freak is just so much. It's just so tough to deal with. I think he's going to be one of the better players in the NBA in a short while. I think he's just got the kind of physical tools that we've never really seen a player like him use before. They're scary. They're long. They're athletic. They're well coached, young, and they have one hell of a chip on their shoulder. Like, they're really playing to win. A tough matchup for the Raptors. I see that being more of a problem than Washington, which we reviewed last week. What do you think about it?
I agree. It's a more difficult matchup because they play elite defense. They're top 5 in defense. They play a really modern defense that all their players, you notice, they're really long, really quick, and every single one of them, except for save center, could play 2 positions. So they could really, in a league and where we depend on pick and roll basketball, they could switch player to player very easily, very seamlessly, and that's how their defense works.
They're kind of like the futuristic NBA team. Yeah, everyone's long and can be athletic.
And that's if you notice how Golden State plays their defense. Lots of switching. That's why a guy like Draymond Green is so effective because he could guard the power forward, he could guard the small forward, he could guard some 2 guards, and it's a really important way to play basketball when we play so much pick and roll. So they're really dangerous. We didn't even mention Chris Middleton, who's a really long 2 guard, who is a really tough matchup for a guy named DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
That being said, Kyle Lowry, and we have Kyle Lowry. I know he'd be guarded by Michael Carter Williams,
who's
really
a good
long,
defender and very
good defender. Long. They're going to rely on defense, and they're better defensively than us. And logic would say, they might have a huge advantage, but I'm going to give it to us. We have the experience advantage, and that matters in playoff basketball. Their offense relies on transition basketball. They're young. None of them really have played much playoff basketball, save Jared Dudley and a few of the other veterans. Mm-hmm. But they really don't. They have no exposure in playoff basketball. A lot of that transition basketball where that's their bread and butter, that's not going to happen in the playoffs. It's going to be slow, grinded out basketball, and that's not their game. So I'm going to say the Raptors. I think it's going to take a game to adjust. I think we're going to definitely win the first game, just due to that slow down tempo. I think Raptors last year. But I will say Raptors in 6.
I'm going to say Raptors in 7. I mean, I'm just looking at their roster. They've got, like, Plumlee, OJ Mayo here, I see.
Lots of good players.
Jabari Parker, of course.
Jabari Parker's out for the year.
And, he is out for the year.
Yes.
My goodness. Anyway, but they have the Greek Freak, Michael. Like, they're very long, like, top to bottom.
Very long, very athletic.
Yes, which is very hard to play against in the new NBA. Like, they defend extremely well, and they can run and get out you. You get very tired playing against a team like the Milwaukee Bucks. Raptors in 7.
Let's jump to a break, Jacoby.
Sure. See you at the other side. Followers, stay put.
Jacoby, let's jump back into Rapscast. We're going into the final leg of the show, some of our favorite segments. Let's start with Be a GM.
Sure thing, man.
So in the news this week, Lou Williams said on ESPN that he spoke about a contract extension with Masai. Then he later reneged on that and said there was a miscommunication, but really implied that he wants to be a Raptor next year. He loves the city. He feels like he's wanted. He feels like he's really respected by the city, by the country, and thinks the system is a good system where they work hard, and it's a good fit for him. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about that? Would you want him back?
Well, yes, I would want him back, but I see why he would have trouble finding this much respect anywhere else, frankly. He's a bit of a clown. You know, his personality, he doesn't strike me as the hardest worker in the world, you know what I mean? And I think that's rubbed off onto Kyle and DeMar a little bit. I always see them laughing around on the court, even if they're down 10 points. You know, they're telling jokes, ha, ha, ha. You know, I don't love his personality. I don't love his competitiveness, but I think he can grow. And I think the Raptors together can grow. He definitely is a very useful scorer in the NBA. Wherever he goes, he's going to fill it up. I would like Lou Will back. Listen, if the price is right.
Give me the price.
No more than like $7 million.
For how many years?
3 max.
Okay. I'm going to agree with you fully. I think, you know, getting a guy like that who knows the Raptors system, you know he's a fit in our system, is hard to do. And a guy who's talented, a professional scorer off the bench. So I would keep him. Again, he's been in the league for 10 years. He's probably going to start slowing down. I want him on a short-term contract. So I don't mind paying him more for less years. So I would either go with around $7.5 million for 2 years, or I'd go for around $6.5 million for 3 years tops.
Except the only thing that I'm struggling with, Lou Williams strikes me as the type that's going to hold out. You know what I mean? That loves big money.
Let him walk.
Exactly, right?
Let him walk. Play hardball. We have guys like Terrence Ross who could step into that role and, you know, hope for the best. Hope that he can step up, provide what Lou does.
Be a shot maker.
Be a shot maker. He won't do it as well next year, but we could find people. Don't overpay.
But Lou Williams at that role is one of the best in the NBA.
One of the best. But you know what? If he's going on record saying, I want to be in Toronto next year,
then he should take a discount.
He's going to take a little bit of a home. I'm not saying he's coming here for free. Okay? He's going to eat. His family's going to eat. They're going to have meals on their table, okay? Every night. I promise. But he'll give him he better give him a little bit of a friendly
on
deal.
wife A's table or wife B's table?
Maybe both.
Sorry, I had to sneak it in there.
Yeah. So that's what I think. Those are the deals. That's what I want to see happen. And if he's playing hardball, let him walk. All right. That's it. We'll address those needs. We have good cap.
Well, I'm glad you're not bending over backwards for Lou Williams.
No, not for Lou Williams.
Okay, fantastic.
DeMar DeRozan, another story.
I think that means it's time for
the King of the North.
The King in the North. No.
The King in the North. The King in the North.
So who's the King of the North, Jacoby?
Our King of the North. I think it's a pretty easy one this week.
Kyle Lowry.
Oh yeah.
Our boy.
Back to his usual form, leading the Raptors, being the toughest, best, smartest player out there on the floor every possession.
He's a fashion trendsetter on the court.
And the new headband, we definitely like that. So.
Yeah. Triple-double, headband. I loved it all. Getting back into his groove.
And the mentality just looks there. He looks mean like he used to. He looks like he's grinding out every possession.
He wants to win.
Yeah.
And he's bringing that back to the team. And we know that he is the most important person on this team, and he is playing like it.
At least the last little while, absolutely.
Yeah. So hopefully it stays.
Congratulations to Kyle, King in the North. Rapscast episode 9.
So let's just sign off. We're on everything, right, Jacoby? We're on Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, We post on Reddit. You could follow us on anything. Email us at rapscastnba@gmail.com if you have any questions, stuff you want us to talk about in the show.
And we're a nice pair of guys. We encourage questions. We'll answer you back politely.
Yeah, for sure. And we like to have a conversation. That's what it's all about. We just want to get Raptors fans together and really talk about the team that we love.
Yeah.
So subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and all that junk. Rapscast.com. I'm Kyle. That's Jacoby.
Catch us every Friday, ladies and gentlemen.
This is Rapscast episode 9.
We'll see you next week.